श्री राजदीप राय जी।
कुछ आपके लिए रखा है। नमस्कार महोदय। As I stand here, at the outset, I would like to thank Sri Mansukh Mandaviya Bhai, Minister of the Department concerned for the bill, and my floor leaders for giving me a chance to start this debate and discussion on behalf of the Treasury bench. Today being 6th of December, at the outset, I would like to convey my salutation to Bhimrao Ambedkar ji for the constitution that he has given us, and that constitution is binding the whole country together for the last 73 years. Mr. Speaker, sir, the National Institute of Pharmaceutical Education Research Amendment Bill 2021, in short form called the NIPER, was presented in the House in the month of March on 15th, 2021. And this bill was referred to the Standing Committee subsequently, and the committee then submitted its report on 4th of August 2021. So the bill has come in the present form following the suggestion made by the Parliamentary Standing Committee and incorporating those suggestions as we go along. Mr. Speaker, sir, the bill aims to make few amendments to the National Institute of Pharmaceutical Education and Research Act of 1998. This NIPER will impart postgraduate, doctorate, and conduct high-end research in various streams of pharmaceuticals. These institutes, over the years, have gone up to a capacity intake of around 1,200 students, and there are more requirements which are being felt following a post-COVID situation. The NIPER bill was initially tabled in 1998 with the first institute being started at Mohali. Subsequently, in 2007, few more NIPERs were added, the others being at Hyderabad, Ahmedabad, Guwahati, Kolkata, and the following. And in the recent past, we have seen that the National Institutional Network Framing has ranked 3 of these institutes very highly, and all these institutes are doing excellently well. Mr. Speaker, sir, the bill also seeks to make amendment and grant status of institution of national importance. That's the crux of this bill. Institute of national importance to all those institutes which has been set up in the country from Mohali and then subsequently. So this bill wishes to bring into its purview all the 7 institutes to be declared as Institute of National Importance. And these institutes include the institute at Ahmedabad, Hajipur, Hyderabad, Kolkata, Guwahati, Raebareli, along with the Mohali Institute. What do this INI, Institute of National Importance, mean? That needs to be understood by the House today. This new status will allow this institute to exercise greater autonomy by giving them the power to hold their own examinations, to grant them degrees, diplomas, and of course other academic distinctions or fellowships as the case may be. In addition, such institutes receive direct funding from the Union government. The funding aspect is very crucial since the construction of certain NIPER is still underway for a long time, and I'll come to that in the later part of my speech. A concern herein remains about the terminology of INI, that is Institute of National Importance. It is high time that the government works towards defining this as well, and I am glad this ministry led by Sri Mansukh Mandaviya ji has put its mind, applied its mind on this and come with a new bill, with a new definition and new amendments. Mr. Speaker, sir, it also proposes to establish a council and a board of governors for the institute. I'll come to that also later. Before that, I would like to go to the evolution of this institute slightly, sir, on a historical basis. The act was passed in 1998, and this enabled the setup of Mohali Institute, and then it was declared as an institute of national importance. In 2007, the first amendment to the original bill of 1998 was passed, and it empowered the central government to develop 6 new institutes, as I said. Now government feels, in the view of the pandemic that has broken all across the globe, that we are more in need of manpower, we are more in need of technical person. We need to take these institutes to each and every nook and corner of the country, because the pharmaceutical industry has grown by leaps and bounds in the past few years. I must mention here that between 2007 to 2014, the fund allocated to those 7 institutes were only 300 crores. And as a result of this meager amount allocation, the research sector of those institutes did not go as desired. Now, following 2014 to 2021, what we have done is we have allocated funds for research and development of this institute to the tune of 1,300 crores. So that is a huge quantum leap, especially that has taken place after 2017. The pharma sector and the whole pharma industry and the academia are upbeat about it, and we have seen the results that has been showcased by our researchers, our scientists, our pharma industry in the COVID times and all. I take you to those days when there were news all across the globe that paracetamol was shortage from United States of America to Japan to Maldives. There was shortage of 4-hydroxychloroquine all across the world. And Indian pharma industry took the challenge, stood up to the challenge, and we became not only the pharmacy of the world, we started supplying medicines all across the globe, and for which our country has been hugely appreciated. Mr. Speaker, sir, we need to apply our mind now to bring certain changes, whereas there will be more transparency and there will be a sort of activity in those institutes whereby we can actually take those institutes from national level to international level. Mr. Speaker, sir, what are the amendments that are being proposed? Of all these institutes, the 7 which are in operation now, and the coming maybe 4 or 5 in the few more states that are being planned, they will have an umbrella body called in the name of council. And each, I'll come to that later, and each of these institutes will be governed by a board of governors, and this board of governors will be clearly defined. The members of the council will also be clearly defined. One of my friend from the opposition bench just said that the board of governors was initially conceptualized at 23 members. It has been brought down to 12 members, keeping in mind one thing: more the heads, more the ideas, and there is an old English saying that too many cook always spoils the broth. So the government has decided to keep the number of members in the board of governors to least minimum possible and in tune with the IIMs and the IITs of our country, so that we can also develop this pharmaceutical institute in tune with IIMs and IITs. Mr. Speaker, sir, the establishment of the council, as I have said, the function of those council will be advising on matters related to course duration, admission standards, and formulating policies for recruitment, condition of service, and also their fee structure, examining and approving development plans of the institutes, examining annual budget estimates and institutes for recommendations to the central government for allocation of funds. So that will be the main function of the council. Composition of the council, I would like to come into, I will not take too much time on this, is it will be a minister who will be in charge of, who is in the ministry for the department of the central government, having administrative control of the pharmaceutical as an ex officio member as the chairperson. The Minister of State of the ministry or department of the central government having administrative control of the pharmaceutical as vice chairperson. A chairperson of each board of governors from all the other institutes. The director of every institute will also be an ex officio member and chairperson of All India Council of Technical Education, which increases the versatility of this committee, because there will be technical expertise, there will be lawmakers, there will be minister, there will be representatives from all the other institutes, so that we get the best level of governance, the best level of policy formulation at individual institute level. When we talk of the board of governors, the act constituted a board of governors for controlling and management of the institute affairs that was initially done in 1998. Mr. Speaker, sir, this present act will bring down the number of members in the board to 12. This board will be chaired by an eminent academician or a professional. The ex officio member of the board will be the director of that institute, the joint secretary of the central government in the Department of Pharmaceutical, dealing with National Institutes of Pharmaceutical Education and Research, the secretary dealing with medical and technical education in the concerned state government, and a representative from the Drug Controller General of India. Most importantly, there will be 3 pharmaceutical experts, and of which one should be a woman. And with specific knowledge of the subject, they cannot be outside the knowledge armamentarium. 2 pharmaceutical industries and 2 professors of the institute. Now, people will always ask question, why industrialists or why people from pharma industry? Because today in a market-driven economy, there has to be a bondage between the academician and the industry. The industry needs to know what the academics are thinking, and the academician should also know what the industry wants from us. So that is where, the versatility of this whole group of board of governors comes in. There is an urgent need to focus on the capacity building, and this substantially increases the annual intake capacity of the National Institute of Pharmaceutical Education and Research. We need to train more manpower for the coming days, and this, I hope, will serve the purpose. I have spoken about almost what are the major changes in the amendment, but I would like also to draw the attention on certain other things which needs to be mentioned here. I said some time back the fund utilization between 2007 and 2014 was 300 crores, and subsequent to that it has gone up to 1300 crores. I must mention with pride that after 2017, from the data that I have collected from the ministry, we have had revised estimate of 180 crores in 17-18, and I'm proud to say 100% of it has been utilized by the institutes and all. Subsequently, 18-19, 19-20, 20-21, almost all 4 years, 100% of the fund has been utilized, and we have seen that almost 800 and this time around 200 crore has already been allocated. So we are seeing that very minimal or almost negligible wastage of national funds, national resources under the able guidance of our Prime Minister, Sri Narendra Modi ji. What NIPER next proposes to do is that it wants to associate for providing technical assistance, testing facility under the recently launched PLI and PARC scheme. We want to start MTech courses in all our 4 NIPRs. Medical testing device facilities being started in NIPERs. Detailed report prepared and accepted has already been done at the level of HMCF, and steps are initiated for obtaining NABL accreditation for the testing labs. We are also seeking to get an enhanced academia industry linkage, as I have said, and that is the reason why people from the industry has also been incorporated in the board of governors. We hope that this report on financial resilience prepared and accepted at the level of HMCF, and these steps are initiated, and government will take all possible care to see to it that all of these are accepted and implemented in the subsequent days. Mr. Speaker, sir, what benefit would the bill give us? That is important, and that is where the crux of the matter lies. The India-specific findings of the CPI annual report survey conducted amongst 350 executive forecasts that there is a sustained pharma industry growth in the country, which has been written almost for sure by all experts all across the world. So we are heading for a pharma boom, and it is time for us to take a decision appropriately measuring to what the changing world is thinking about India. We once missed the bus to China around 25 years back. This time we should not miss the bus as far as the pharmaceutical industry is concerned. And we are hopefully headed in the right direction. We need to pass certain laws, amend certain laws, so that we also come up with the changing world. Mr. Speaker, sir, as per the India ratings and research, the Indian pharmaceutical market has grown by almost 18% in the last financial year, which is phenomenal during the time of COVID, which nobody thought of. Can we imagine a Prime Minister of our country visiting the vaccine manufacturing center, talking to each and every workers there, learning of their difficulties, seeking to solve the problems they were having, energizing them, giving them the impetus to work under this corona pandemic situation. And this is the result that we have got. India is looking up. India's experience with the COVID pandemic has also highlighted its vaccine and medicine capabilities. We have not just been the vaccine powerhouse of the world today. We are proud to say that we have supplied all medicines, like as I have said, from remdesivir to hydroxychloroquine to paracetamol to the developed country like United States to even Maldives and all. There is a paper on the pharmacy profession of India which has been authored by all the experts. The inconsistency with respect to the implementation of education policies and opportunities were highlighted by the experts. And to mitigate this, to become a world-class leader in pharma sector, India needs to apply its mind, do the right trainings, focus on research and other facilities to form a required professional pool of expert and a skilled force. Mr. Speaker, sir, I would like to quote Amitabh Kant, CEO of Niti Aayog, who has said in this regard, to position Indian pharma on the top of the global landscape, it is crucial to move towards research, innovation, and emerging technologies. India cannot turn a blind eye to all these. Therefore, is the introduction of this act very, very logical. By granting Institute of National Importance status, this institution will gain administrative autonomy, they will gain functional autonomy, and enhance the efficiency, quality, and accountability. Mr. Speaker, sir, the industry's response to this bill has been very, very positive. I don't want to go into detail of what each of the directors of NIPER has said, but it is important to say that the mood of the directors and mood in all the academics at the NIPERs are very, very positive. This Make in India program is going to get a further boost, and development of state-of-the-art infrastructure required for pharmacy research and development is important. The wide range of courses, industry academia collaboration, and skill development required for industry and other academic institute will also see a boom.
Now please conclude.
I'll just take one minute of your indulgence. I'm almost on finishing. The research and development output is anticipated to increase and promote sprouting of more innovations and startup. Mr. Speaker, sir, at this I would like to tell one little fact that India today is home to 12,000 pharmaceutical industries. Can we believe the workforce that is there behind this 12,000? If we can supply them with knowledge, if we can supply them with the requisite infrastructure, they can do wonders. I would end my speech and urging everybody in this House to give their opinion in favor of the bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.